We're back, people, and today we're breaking down film on the Dolphins defense versus the Niners. I posted a Christian Wilkins video breakdown yesterday, and he dominated in this one. But everyone else, it was just an inconsistent day for the defense. They really struggled to get off the field on third down, which I think also hurt the offense because they really couldn't get in any rhythm. So this was really, a game I think that was on both the offense and the defense. Probably the offense more so, but the defense didn't really do them too many favors. One of the biggest differences in this game was the linebacker play. Niners linebacker play was super high level, made the Dolphins offense, have to go away from what they like to do. Couldn't attack the middle of the field as consistently. And then the Dolphins linebackers were getting burnt all day, whether it be in the middle of the field or out on the edge, lined up in man-to-man on running backs. It just was a mismatch for the Niners offense, and I think that was the biggest difference for this game. I think the Niners also just out-schemed the Dolphins defense, getting McCaffrey lined up one-on-one with Duke Riley. Dolphins tried to have Duke Riley on McCaffrey multiple times in this game, and it just didn't work. Niners do a good job. They've been doing this season where they motion out the running back, give him a little short motion, but he stays square, he shuffles, and it just creates this momentum and this leverage advantage that now he has a one-on-one in space versus Duke Riley. Dolphins just need to add a linebacker that is very good in coverage, because the rest, like Duke Riley, Jerome Baker, they're athletic, and even Channing Tindall, they probably should give him a chance, but he didn't have a lot of experience covering in college coming out of Georgia. But their linebackers, they're very athletic, and they can drop in zone and then come downhill and make tackles. Like, that's where their coverage ability comes from. Baker can play some man-to-man versus average guys, but they get lined up versus very good tight ends, very good running backs, and they're just getting absolutely burnt. Their linebackers are just not made for this. Atlanta Roberts is not getting coverage at all. So they're going to face teams like this, and it's going to be very difficult. Next week, they match up versus Austin Eckler. I don't think it will be as bad as facing the Niners offense, just because, against the Chargers, it's an easier recipe to stop them. They can stop the run very easily against the Chargers, and then put them into second and long, third and long situations and allow the pass rush to get there, and that will be the biggest difference for the game, is just getting pressure on Herbert early. One thing the Dolphins defense did do a good job of in this game was stopping them from, getting too many touchdowns. They held them to field goals a decent amount, and that's when they were able to create instant pressure on third down situations. They get a 3rd and 6 here, and they end up sliding to the right, which gives a free lane for Jerome Baker. This is where Baker's at his best, obviously, blitzing, and then Jalen Phillips helps finish it off. I think this is a play Garoppolo actually gets hurt on too, which was unfortunate for the Niners, but Brock Purdy did come in and play very, very well, much better than expected. But just good job, taking away initial reads, because, all you got to do is stop as a secondaries, take away the initial read, just make him hesitate for just enough time to allow the rush to get there. And Baker, Phillips do a good job finishing this play. Unfortunately, Garoppolo got hurt. Obviously, you don't want to see that happen to any player. I like when Dolphins did get into third down situations where they could force the Niners to punt, they always converted. They were only really stopping them on third down once they got into the red zone when they did get their third down stops. But just another situation where McCaffrey gets a one-on-one with Duke Riley, and they do a great job just pre-snap positioning here. It puts Riley in a tough spot. It puts pretty much everyone else does a pretty good job. Everyone is pretty locked up here. I mean, you could probably throw these on the backside, but it's a much more difficult throw. These guys could close this window, but they just get the whip route to McCaffrey. Duke Riley's in a very difficult situation, and he just burns him again. It's just free money for an offense like that. When you have McCaffrey, that type of weapon, you get him lined up on pretty much any linebacker in the league, he's going to win that, 99% of the time. So just getting out-schemed in these situations, Dolphins tried to, run their cover 1, cover 0, and third down, and it just didn't work for most of the game. Dolphins made the game pretty easy for Brock Purdy, trying to get him some simple reads, getting him rolling out to the right here, just throw it to Juwan Jennings in the flat, but he just tries to go off script, makes a throwback across his body, and the refs just killed the Dolphins in this one. Obviously, Dolphins really did a poor job playing in this game overall, consistently, offense and defensively, but the refs did not help at all. They actually do a pretty good job here. If he forces this throw to Jennings, Howard should be there to close, probably only get a 6-yard gain on a 3rd and 10. Everything else, Kohu does gets the pass interference, but I think he does a really good job here versus Ayuk. He takes the inside release. Ayuk's a really good route runner. He knows he has safety help over the top towards the middle of the field, so he's just playing that outside low leverage, and he's just in perfect positioning. He sticks with Ayuk the whole time. Ball gets thrown back across his body. He doesn't really interfere at all, in my opinion. It's just a terrible call, and then they get pass interference, so they, and they end up scoring a touchdown on this drive, when they should have been held to at least a field goal attempt. This touchdown was actually pretty interesting because it could be on a couple people, like their faults and who it is. I think this is just a miscommunication by the defense. They come out and, there's zero look, but like not true cover zero where they're just man-to-man the whole time where they usually pass off. And it's like they got Howard lined up on Ayuk on the outside. He is doing what he's supposed to do, just man up on Ayuk. But right here, Samuel and Juszczyk are pretty close together. And you got Baker lined up over Juszczyk, Kohu lined up over Samuel. But it also looks like maybe Baker is man on McCaffrey for some reason, just based on their alignment. And Holland's actually the guy who's responsible for Juszczyk, and he goes straight to the flat. I just don't know if maybe Baker thought he had the wrong man. Kohu tries to keep eyes on Samuel right here to play this. And you can tell Holland trying to communicate to get out to the flat to Kohu. So this play could really be on either Kohu, Jerome Baker, Javon Holland. Just seems like a miscommunication by the whole defense. Don't really like if Baker, in my opinion, should just be man-to-man on Juszczyk, but just based on how they played it, I don't think he actually was. They had a man-to-man on McCaffrey, and it just gives them a free touchdown into the flat. Here was another call that really hurt the Dolphins. They get called for tripping on this play, and it was actually a really great play by Melvin Ingram and Zach Sealer. They get the toss to the play side. They try to pull this guard from the play side guard to Ingram, and he just blows this up at the point of the tag. It's a great job resetting the line of scrimmage, using leverage, power, blows this up, makes it tough for McCaffrey to run, and he gets called for tripping. But when you see the replay on the broadcast view, literally Williams and Ingram get their feet caught together right here, so that goes up, and then he gets tripped. And Sealer did struggle playing versus Trent Williams a decent amount in this game, just because Trent Williams is probably the best tackle in the league. But right here, he does get a nice push here. Great leverage. You can see him extending those hips, extend those arms, and he creates that push into the backfield. And this was a really important play because right there was 2nd and 6, and they forced like a 3-4 yard loss, and it would have been third and long. And if they get a stop there, it was at a pretty big point in the game where the Dolphins offense was playing with no rhythm, and they just couldn't get onto the field either. They were just going 3 and out, and then the Dolphins defense was struggling to get off the field, whether it be the refs or just, their own mistakes. A big 3rd down stop by the Dolphins defense. Great play by Keion Crossen. He comes up in press, and I don't know what the play call is here, because just being aligned in press by Crossen gives him a great chance to make a play. They try to, get him into the flat. I think maybe he's supposed to be a little bit tighter and probably supposed to rub him and then allow Samuel to get out in space and maybe have a one-on-one with Kohu, But he just goes up to block out these two guys, and then Debo pretty much never has a chance to make a play on this because Crossen's right there at the point of attack. So great play by Crossen. I think there had to be some miscommunication with the Niners here, because it just makes no sense for them to come up and press and then not get like a rub going on this guy, because they just go out and block anyway. So clearly it was a designed play to Samuel. But Crossen makes a good play, heads up. Good job getting aligned and pressed there, and showing some nice instincts, reading this, and makes a play at the catch point. So Crossen actually played pretty decent in this one. I feel like Crossen has struggled throughout the season, and he made multiple plays in the past couple weeks that he hasn't been making all season. So nice to see that development from him. Dolphins get a big time sack here on Brock Purdy. You want to see them be able to do this a little more often, working these loops, these twists, these stunts, and just being able to create very quick pressure. Sealer does a good job pulling this guard with him, but also chipping into Trent Williams, just taking two guys, and Van Ginkel takes the best path to get to the quarterback, and then Sealer and him meet on it. That is just perfectly executed right there by the defense. Being able to do this, I just feel like when Andrew Van Ginkel plays, he makes at least one big time play in a game. So just love to see this. He's a very good athlete, so just great explosiveness. He's also very aware. He doesn't create a lot of pressure just like on his own. He's a very good run defender, but when he's able to, work these twists, these stunts, he just understands his job, and they make a big time play here. While the day was inconsistent for the Dolphins defense, they actually did a pretty good job overall during like the middle of this game, getting some stops, giving the offense some chances, and that's when the offense finally started, producing in that second half. Once the Dolphins defense was able to, get off the field, stop them for some punts. Right here, it's 4th and 4. After the big time sack, they gained like 6 yards, and now they decide to go for it. It's one of the only times where like they came out true cover one and just, forced him to get the ball out quickly, and they just didn't have any like super advantage matchups. They didn't use McCaffrey like they had been, and I think they had Holland playing to his side to match on him man-to-man. That's the adjustment they made in this game. And then it just forces Brock Purdy to like actually make a read. He just sees the middle of the field safety, so goes one-on-one to Ayuk, and Howard just plays this perfectly. Honestly, he gets the pick, but he should have dropped it because it was 4th down, and they would have got the ball at the 39 instead of down at the 19. So they lose 20 yards on this. So it wasn't even that bad for the Niners. It was more like a punt, a 20-yard punt. But would like to see, it's still I like seeing Howard get interceptions, but definitely this situation should have knocked it down. But good adjustments by the Dolphins defense specifically on this play. Another 3rd down situation, 3rd and 10, and they just convert instantly. Dolphins showing cover 0 pre-snap, but they end up dropping into more of a zone. Ends up being like a zone, like turning into a cover 3 type look where Howard's playing middle of the field. And Brock Purdy, he played really good in this one. This is actually a really good read. He knows he's hot, and he's just throwing to the quick, glance route to Kittle over the middle of the field, knowing he's hot. They hit this seam between, the 3 right here. This is just a great read. And honestly, a good spot to put Kittle in pre-snap here. It put Kittle in tight pre-snap, but don't get him lined up as the tight end either. Get him a nice release. It also forces Rowe to play outside leverage, and they put him onto the single side, so Howard is cheating to the 3 receiver side, and it just gives him all this space. Purdy, the play calling, just excellent work there from the 49ers. Dolphins defense just didn't look that great right before the half in this 2-minute drill. They started to bring a lot of pressure, or like show the pre-snap pressure. Looks like right here they're showing a bunch of pre-snap pressure, but they're not even like bringing that much. They are dropping out of it. They only end up really bringing 4, but the Niners offense just runs this screen to perfection because the guys that they drop end up being defensive tackles, and those guys are just not going to move super well in space. So it just gives McCaffrey all this room to work, and it just gets him down inside the 5-yard line, and then they end up scoring quickly after this. The play right before this, they try to hit McCaffrey in the end zone on a very similar concept, but this time instead of running it into the end zone, he just sort of sits down at the goal line right here. And the Dolphins defense is just not made for zone coverage. They drop basically into a Tampa 2 type look down, in between the 5, and they just have McCaffrey understands how to find these soft spots. Purdy throwing with good anticipation too. They try to drop Bradley Chubb into coverage, and they have the corner on the outside playing as the flat defender, and he just sits in right between them. Dolphins defense isn't super instinctive in zone, not really any of their players' strengths. And then when they they tried to play man in this game, and obviously that also wasn't working against McCaffrey. McCaffrey was just a huge difference maker for the Niners. Another situation where this was like what the Dolphins offense really wanted to do, throwing over the middle of the field, finding these big open holes. Dolphins drop into cover 3, and it's just their linebackers have to get out, and then they get way too much leverage and depth to the outside. They just leave this open zone over the middle of the field. Honestly, I think Baker gets out to the 3x2 side and sort of squeezes this on McCaffrey, which is smart, but Duke Riley has no reason, to get so far to the outside. Just doesn't feel this coming in behind him. And this is a hard thing to do for a linebacker, and it's just not Riley or Baker's strength, and they just attacked it all game, and that was just such a big difference for the Niners offense in this one. And I think, as I said earlier in the video, the Niners linebackers were the biggest difference makers compared to the Dolphins LBs. At least the next play, they came out with a positive one. Really just Zach Sealer creating instant pressure, just beating this left guard, and then Bradley Chubb sticking with it, hitting his hand right at the catch point. Just good job. Like, I feel like the front, 5, front 4, whatever it was at the time when they're played a pretty good game because Wilkins played really good. They stopped the run for the most part until the end of the game when they were kind of gassed. Chubb and Phillips played with a bunch of effort. Van Ginkel obviously had that sack earlier, but just Sealer instantly winning. When he's able to penetrate like this, he just works the club, swim move over the top, just gets that guard standing, and he uses McCaffrey almost as like momentum to force him out to the left, and Chubb showing some nice effort here. So when they were able to create instant pressure, like that's going to be the biggest part of the team for the Dolphins defense. Like, just when they can create pressure, this defense is just at another level because that's where the DBs also really excel, getting their eyes into the backfield, seeing that pressure, and being opportunistic. And that's how they're going to beat the Chargers next week, because Herbert is at his worst under pressure. When you get him under pressure, get him a little bit rattled, that's when he makes his mistakes. And the Chargers O-line isn't that good, so they have the opportunity to really improve from the Niners game. A 3rd down sack for the Dolphins defense. This was another big point in the game. I just feel like the offense had too many mistakes, whether that be on, whether it was on Tua or the O-line or Just the receivers running the wrong routes, or just some drops by like that Jeff Wilson drop was pretty bad. The Dolphins defense, I did enough to give the offense a chance. Obviously, it wasn't a perfect game from the defense, but it was against a third-string quarterback, which is like the most embarrassing part, I guess, to say, because obviously I feel like if it was against their starter, it probably wouldn't have been as bad of a day for the defense, like looking at it from like the whole perspective of it. But since it is against third string, it wasn't their greatest day. But just great job here by Melvin Ingram, and I believe that is Chubb or Phillips coming from this side, creating some pressure, forcing him to spin out of it. We'll just watch this here. It is Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb doing a pretty good job pushing Trent Williams back into the pocket, tries to force Purdy to spin out of it, and Ingram right there to get the sack. Ingram's played really, really good this season for the Dolphins, been one of the most surprising players for the team. This play right here from Javon Holland is the most impressive play. The Dolphins defense made the whole game. It didn't really end up mattering because they end up converting on 4th and 1 anyway on a QB sneak that they should have stopped because they instantly stopped it, but he was able to spin out. They weren't able to get a clean wrap up on him. But just what? Holland is man-to-man on Christian McCaffrey. This was the adjustment they made. They actually did this last week too. Holland was man-to-man on running backs, but he was also aligned like deep, like 15 yards away from the running back, and he was still able to show off the closing speed here. Like he's man-to-man, and McCaffrey is running to the flat opposite of where he's aligned, and Holland is, this is like the play design here. They have everyone on the 3-by side go towards the inside and then work McCaffrey back to the opposite side, get him all this space, and Holland just takes a perfect angle, shows off that range and closing speed, and then just finishes the hit right at the point of attack. That is this is about as elite as a safety play as you'll see. Like, it doesn't really get any better than that. Unfortunately, it didn't end up mattering because they convert right after this, but just super impressive stuff from Javon Holland. Right here, 3rd and 4, it's 23-17, so Dolphins are only down 6. This is a huge point in the game, and the Dolphins defense does what it takes to get off the field. They try to work the rub, throwing this fade to Jawan Jennings with Kohu on him. They try to, but it ends up just sort of, they run into each other there, so it gets stopped, and that slows down the play just enough for them to, work their, their twists, their stunts. Jalen Phillips gets the pressure pretty quickly. Jalen Phillips has been really good at this year, where he's the guy who crashes down, and he's trying to set up the loop for Ingram here, but he always does this, just takes the right tackle or the left tackle, whatever it be on that play, out of the play, and then uses his momentum colliding with him to slow down and then get his angle back to the quarterback. He even trips here a little bit. Thank God they didn't call that roughing because he went low. I think it's because he was tripped into the quarterback, but just forces this incompletion here. Does a pretty good job making this errant throw, and the defense did what it took, in this situation to give the Dolphins offense a chance. Obviously, Dolphins offense moved it down the field, did have a chance to win the game, but then there was just a couple unfortunate plays, especially that 4th down to Gesicki. Just couldn't hang on to it, so unfortunate stuff. Last play that I'm going to break down, and this play that really just iced the game for the Niners offense, was just a big run by McCaffrey, because this gets them down at least into field goal range. And this is really just all, they create a bunch of push up front here on the play side of the play, but just watch Trent Williams work like this snatch and trap technique. This is high-level stuff. He uses Sealer's own momentum against him, snatches those arms down, and then just throws him to the side, which just creates this whole cutback lane. They will create this nice, wall right here of offensive linemen for McCaffrey up front, and McCaffrey just presses and then cuts this back, and he's just able to get enough of Davis right there and just creates this huge cutback lane. So really that play is all just Trent Williams being the best offensive tackle in the league, and then this is where the game really was decided. So the defense overall wasn't their worst performance, wasn't their best performance. They made enough plays, I think, to give the offense a chance to win, but they also, I feel like early on, weren't getting off the field very much, which the offense obviously didn't help them by staying on the field very much, but they also weren't helping the offense by getting off the field quickly, allowing them to get in rhythm, and I just feel like that was a huge part of this game. Overall, I'm not too worried about the defense. I know it was against a third stringer, but Purdy came in and played just as good as Jimmy Garoppolo was, or has been this season, honestly. He was making a lot of high-level plays for a third string. I guess he was Mr. Irrelevant, I guess, at the last draft. I know he was the last pick. I remember him being picked in the 7th, and when they said he was Mr. Irrelevant, I remember that happening in the draft. But just impressive stuff from the Niners offense overall. They just match up very well against the Dolphins defense. I think they'll have a better performance against Herbert and the Chargers, though. Like, Herbert's a great player. but I just feel like the defense matches up better against that offense. If they can, stop the run on first down or stop those quick passes, force them into third and long, I feel like they're going to have a much better chance of getting out the field more consistently. So if you guys enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.